Laudetur Jesus Christus. Praised be Jesus Christ. Welcome to this live broadcast from inside the Vatican's Paul VI Hall this Monday, May 12th. Pope Leo XIV is expected to meet this morning with representatives of the media who were in Rome to cover the conclave that elected him Pope on May 8th. My name is Devin Watkins, and I'll be providing the commentary and translation for this papal event. As we begin this broadcast, we see the Paul VI Hall has been filled with media representatives, media professionals who are covering the conclave. We're still waiting for Pope Leo to come out and to greet those professionals who have covered from the election of Pope Francis, from the death of Pope Francis, and have stayed on to cover the conclave and his election in these first days of his papacy. From wherever you are joining us, I would like to welcome you to this live broadcast. Some of you may be joining us through various Vatican media channels, perhaps the Vatican News app or the Radio Vaticana app, the Vatican News web portal, or Vatican News English YouTube channel, or our Facebook Live feed. We also welcome all of you who are joining us through our partner broadcasting stations who are picking up this broadcast, including Madha TV in India, EWTN TV, Catholic Faith Network in America, UCTV, Uganda Catholic Television, Shalom World Television Networks USA, Atmadarshan TV, Catholic TV, and Luminous Radio in India. We also welcome all of you who are joining us on local diocesan broadcasting radio stations, and a warm welcome to all of our friends from the Deaf Catholic Youth Initiative for the Americas, DCYIA. And for this event and for many others, please visit our Vatican News YouTube channel to find translation in American Sign Language, or ASL. As we await Pope Leo XIV, its arrival here in the Paul VI Audience Hall, we can go back through these first few days of his pontificate. He was elected just on May 8th, only 4 days ago, the evening of May 8th. For his first trip outside of the Vatican, he did that on Saturday. Pope Leo chose to visit the shrine of the Mother of Good Counsel in Genazzano, just outside of Rome. That afternoon, which was less than 48 hours after his election as Pope, he traveled to the shrine that has been run by the Augustinians since 1200. Pope Leo, who was born Robert Francis Prevost, visited that shrine as a cardinal when he was the prefect of the dicastery for bishops just over a year ago in April 2024, and he celebrated Mass there. In his homily on that event, the then cardinal expressed his devotion to the Virgin Mary and urged the faithful to be inspired by Mary to spread peace and reconciliation in the world. The shrine is home to an ancient image of the Virgin Mary, which comes from Shkodër in Albania, and the image was much loved by Pope Leo XIII. Pope Leo XIV, the other day, explained that he had taken his name from, in the line of Pope Leo XIII, who was the first pope to write a social encyclical, a papal letter dedicated to social issues called Rerum Novarum. At the time, the popes were prisoners of the Vatican upon their election. This was between the 1860s to 1930s. And so he never had the chance to visit. And we hear the applause, and Pope Leo XIV comes out onto the stage here in the Paul VI Hall. Sustained applause for our Holy Father from those who have covered his every move since his election, moment by moment in these few days.
Buongiorno, good morning, and thank you for this wonderful reception. They say when they clap at the beginning, it doesn't matter much. If you're still awake at the end and you still want to applaud, thank you very much. Fratelli e sorelle, do il benvenuto a voi, rappresentanti dei media di tutto il mondo. Vi ringrazio per il lavoro che avete fatto e state facendo in questo tempo, che per la Chiesa è essenzialmente...
Continuing in Italian, Pope Leo says, "Brothers and sisters, I welcome you, representatives of the media from around the world. Thank you for the work you have done and continue to do in these days, which is truly a time of grace for the Church." In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus proclaimed, "Blessed are the peacemakers." This is a beatitude that challenges all of us, but it is particularly relevant to you, calling each one of you to strive for a different kind of communication, one that does not seek consensus at all costs, does not use aggressive words, does not follow the culture of competition, and never separates the search for truth from the love with which we must humbly seek it. Peace begins with each one of us, in the way we look at others, listen to others, and speak about others. In this sense, the way we communicate is of fundamental importance. We must say no to the war of words and images. We must reject the paradigm of war.
Permettetemi allora di ribadire oggi la solidarietà della Chiesa.
Let me therefore reiterate today the Church's solidarity with journalists who are imprisoned for seeking and reporting the truth, while also asking for their release.
E con queste parole anche chiedere la liberazione di questi giornalisti incarcerati.
And with these words also ask for these imprisoned journalists' release.
La Chiesa riconosce in questi testimoni.
The Church recognizes in these witnesses, I'm thinking of those who report on war, even at the cost of their lives, the courage of those who defend dignity, justice, and the right of people to be informed, because only informed individuals can make free choices.
La sofferenza di questi giornalisti,
the suffering of these imprisoned journalists challenges the conscience of nations and the international community, calling on all of us to safeguard the precious gift of free speech and of the press. Thank you, dear friends, for your service to the truth.
Voi siete stati a Roma in queste settimane per raccontare.
You have been in Rome these past few weeks to report on the Church, her diversity, and at the same time, her unity. You were present during the liturgies of Holy Week, and then reported on the sorrow felt after the death of Pope Francis. which nevertheless took place in the light of Easter. That same Easter faith drew us into the spirit of the conclave, during which you worked long and tiring days. Yet even on this occasion, you managed to recount the beauty of Christ's love that unites and makes us one people, guided by the Good Shepherd. We are living in times that are both difficult to navigate and to recount. They present a challenge for all of us, but it is one that we should not run away from. On the contrary, they demand that each one of us, in our different roles and services, never give in to mediocrity. The Church must face the challenges posed by the times. In the same way, communication and journalism does not exist outside of time and history. St. Augustine reminds us of this when he said, "Let us live well, and the times will be good." We are the times. Thank you, therefore, for what you have done to move beyond the stereotypes and clichés through which we often interpret Christian life and the life of the Church itself. Thank you because you have captured the essence of who we are and conveyed it to the whole world through every form of media possible. Today, one of the most important challenges is to promote communication that can bring us out of the Tower of Babel, in which we sometimes find ourselves, out of the confusion of loveless languages that are often ideological or partisan. Therefore, your service, with the words you use and the style you adopt, is crucial. As you know, communication is not only the transmission of information, but it is also the creation of a culture, of human and digital environments that become spaces for dialogue and discussion. In looking at how technology is developing, this mission becomes ever more necessary. I'm thinking in particular of artificial intelligence, with its immense potential, which nevertheless requires responsibility and discernment, in order to ensure that it can be used for the good of all, so that it can benefit all of humanity. This responsibility concerns everyone in proportion to his or her age and role in society. Dear friends, we will get to know each other better over time. We have experienced, we can say together, truly special days. We have shared them through every form of media, TV, radio, internet, and social media. I sincerely hope that each of us can say that these days unveiled a little bit of the mystery of our humanity and left us with a desire for love and peace. For this reason, I repeat to you today the invitation made by Pope Francis in his message for this year's World Day of Social Communications. Let us disarm communication of all prejudice and resentment, fanaticism, and even hatred. Let us free it from aggression. We do not need loud, forceful communication, but rather communication that is capable of listening and of gathering the voices of the weak who have no voice. Let us disarm words. Let us disarm words, and we will help to disarm the world. Disarmed and disarming communication allows us to share a different view of the world and to act in a manner consistent with our human dignity. You are at the forefront of reporting on conflicts and aspirations for peace, on situations of injustice and poverty, and on the silent work of so many people striving to create a better world. For this reason, I ask you to choose consciously and courageously the path of communication in favor of peace. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Dominus vobiscum. Sit nomen Domini benedictum. Adiutorium nostrum in nomine Domini. Benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus. Amen. Tante grazie.
Thank you very much, said Pope Leo XIV after he offered his apostolic blessing to the media professionals gathered here in the Paul VI Hall. And now the Holy Father will come down the steps. And he first takes a drink of water, and as he goes to meet and greet the journalists gathered here in the Paul VI Hall. It's, as he said himself, it's been an intense few days here in and around near the Vatican. Many things have taken place since that fateful Easter Monday when Pope Francis died at around 7 in the morning. The Holy Father is greeting the prefect of the Dicastery for Communication, Paolo Ruffini, and Monsignor Lucio Ruiz, the secretary of the Dicastery, Andrea Tornielli, our editorial director, Andrea Monda, the director of the Osservatore Romano, Natasha Kovekar, director of the Theological Pastoral Department of the Dicastery for Communication, as well as all of the other dignitaries and guests present for this event. Among the many events that Pope Leo has already carried out in these 4 days, on Sunday morning, May 11th, Pope Leo visited the Vatican grottos in private to celebrate Mass at the altar near the tomb of St. Peter. The Holy See Press Office said that morning that the Mass was concelebrated by Father Alejandro Moral Anton, the Prior General of the Order of St. Augustine, of which Pope Leo was a member. He was also served 2 terms as the Prior General himself of the Augustinians, and even in his first words on the balcony, the central balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, just a few minutes after his election, he mentioned that he is an Augustinian, a son of St. Augustine. We heard in his speech just now. That he quoted St. Augustine. I imagine that we will be seeing the eminent theologian show up frequently in his speeches. And in his homily, Pope Leo, for the Mass on Sunday morning in the Vatican grottos, he spoke about what he called a particularly significant Sunday. He spoke first in English and then in Italian, and reflected on the gospel of the Good Shepherd. As he begins his new Petrine ministry, he said he looked to the example of Jesus and the one whom we depend on. The day was also the World Day of Prayer for Vocations. He addressed that theme and recalled that the topic featured prominently during the recent meetings of the cardinals, the general congregations that were held both before and after his election. All of us, he said, must search together, first and foremost by giving a good example in our lives with joy, with living the joy of the gospel, not discouraging others, but rather looking for ways to encourage young people to hear the voice of the Lord and to follow it and to serve the church. He greeted, and he noted that the cardinals spoke prominently and frequently about it during this their general congregations. In his homily on Sunday, Pope Leo also spoke about the universal call to proclaim the gospel, and he urged the faithful, "Take heart, don't be afraid." Acknowledging that the mission sometimes involves sacrifice, he emphasized how essential it is to listen to God's word and to one another. After the Mass, Pope Leo XIV spent time in prayer at the tombs of his predecessors. He also paused before the niche of the pallia, the woolen stoles that symbolize the unity between the Pope and the metropolitan archbishops around the world. That unity emerging and peace emerging as central themes of his just begun pontificate. And with that applause, we conclude this live broadcast of Pope Leo XIV's meeting with media professionals. Please visit the Vatican News web portal, Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube accounts for coverage of today's event and other Vatican and world news. We will be back again live on Wednesday in 2 days when the Pope will lead the general audience from St. Peter's Square. On behalf of Vatican Media, I would like to thank our in-studio audio technician and our audio coordinator and all of our media partners and on TV and radio who have made this broadcast possible. And thank you for joining us. A blessed day to you all. Laudetur Jesus Christus. Praised be Jesus Christ.
maravilloso.